Christopher. This is Carly. She's new with Action Figure Fury.
Hey, so we're going to be reviewing the Aliens Colonial Marine sent to us from Hiya via Big Bad Toys.
It's pretty exciting. We're going to go ahead and start off with just the Marines, though, because it would take forever to review all of these in one review. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so here they are out of the packaging. I think they look great overall, but let's go ahead and just start with the sculpt, and I'm going to grab Hicks here to show you. He's got an awesome face sculpt. You know, he's got that chiseled jaw. His hairline has that texturing on it. He even has these patches on his shoulders that are actually sculpted in and are a little bit risen, which I think is pretty cool. His armor is made out of this soft plastic, and I really like that for like articulation. It makes it easier to like move his head around. Even the straps on his armor are made out of the soft plastic, which is way cool. His pants are actually sculpted to have wrinkles, and the pockets, you know, which I think is awesome. That's some good attention to detail. And then his boots have treads. Treads, guys. If you want to position him with like a jump kick, it's not going to look quite as stupid on the bottom. I really like the way they sculpted his feet.
The feet were really intricate for a figure so small, but unfortunately with Quintero, one of them got a little messed up. I don't know how or when, but by the time that we got a hold of it, his foot is a club foot now. This is what the normal one looks like, and this is what his abnormal one looks like.
His abby-normal.
His abby-normal, exactly. And overall, his sculpt is awesome. His hair is really cool. He has this nice mohawk, but unfortunately that makes it a little difficult, or a lot difficult, to keep his helmet on. But we'll talk more about that later. So, overall with the paint, I think they did a pretty good job. There are some pretty grievous mistakes, but we're going to talk about the good first. There are some excellent, clear, crisp lines between the paint. The boot to camo mix is just nearly perfect, which is really nice because once you go to the skin, it sort of all just goes downhill from here. He's got this weird mole thing on his arm, and then got a little crazy with the self-tanner. I don't know what happened there, but his hand is not in perfect condition.
It's like this darker skin color, and it's actually on all the other figures. They all have this weird paint on their hands that kind of just ruined the ride a little bit.
Really?
You know, like my paint that I hate the most is actually Hudson. He's my favorite character in Aliens, but he's got like this hair problem where his skin starts to splotch up to his you know, hair. And that sucks because that's his moneymaker. You know, they screwed up Hudson's face, and man, the man is a coward, so there's nothing else going for him. And once again, on his hands, you can see that they splotched up his hands too with this weird kind of coloring. And so I was pretty disappointed with the paint. I mean, they do have crisp lines, but, you know, with the figure going to this point with the kind of articulation, and, you know, you're spending a little bit more money with this set and this series. I don't know. I kind of expected it to be a little bit better. I was kind of let down. I don't know, just personally.
I definitely agree with that because another issue with the face, that's kind of a big deal, you know? He has this weird thing on his cheek,
and it's not supposed to be there. The package doesn't show, like, the zit.
Yeah, the zit, the mold, the port wine stain, whatever we're going to go with.
But I did like, you can see on his figure, actually, he has a really cool, like, buzz cut that you can see. I don't know if that was an accident or if that's on purpose, but that kind of brought it back a little bit for me. Those are the little details that no one ever does, that I love, and that no one will ever notice when it's being set up and on display, but I care. So that's the paint, and I was pretty disappointed about it.
Yeah, definitely was not nearly as good as the sculpt.
Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and use Hudson here to display the articulation. And these figures have some pretty awesome articulation, and some problems that causes, actually. So we'll start off with the head. It can rotate 360 degrees. Okay, it can bend backwards, you know, tilt up about that far. It's a pretty crazy angle. And then down, like most figures, it's got slight tilt down. Not a crazy amount, but noticeable. It can pivot side to side fairly well. I mean, he's got some curious looks on his face there. And one thing I'd keep in mind is he's got this, I don't know if it's called a double jointed neck, but that's what it is. And when you rotate it, they both rotate independently of each other. They don't do it together. And he has a V-neck, because Hudson is a V-neck guy, not a turtleneck guy. And so you want to make sure that you kind of hold one of them in place with your finger while you're rotating it to make sure that it, rotates the way you want it to and ends up in the right place. His shoulders have articulation points that allow for it to go about that far up and about that far down. The shoulders rotate 360 degrees. And when moving it forward and backward, just keep in mind that his shoulder plate is going to block you off before it gets too high up there. His elbows rotate 360 degrees, and they bend forward at about a 90-degree angle, those muscles. And bending back, it looks like he got into a car wreck. And his wrists both have a 360-degree rotation as well. But an interesting thing is that they have, this one, his right arm has pivot, right? And it can go about that far and about that far. And his left arm has, it can be bent backwards and it can be bent forwards, but it has no tilt. And it does have the rotation, but only one has tilt and only one has, can be bent backward and forward. And that's interesting because I think they might have done that for like the guns and the accessories, but it's kind of interesting. It's not really a bad thing. It's just an interesting choice. Now, one thing that I loved about this figure is it can crunch, which is not something I was expecting. So you can see that it crunches back about that far, and it crunches forward about that far, and they hit it so well with his armor. It looks fantastic when he does it. Like, I never would have seen it.
We kept forgetting that it was even there.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it can even rotate 360 degrees. So very good articulation there. Now you probably noticed just barely as I was rotating that his leg joint came off. And that is one of the bad things I was talking about. You can't hardly touch the lower half of this figure's body without something falling off. And I don't think Hudson died that quickly in the movie, but it's pretty bad. So I'm only going to show you one leg in interest of like not losing the figure's pieces. So his legs can go up about that far to the side, and they can go back down, and they can go about that far forward. It kind of moves his leg up. He's got a nice touch. You might even be able to, if you push it, touch his head, but it's going to, go back down.
Looks like the car came back for more.
Right, yeah. And so he's got double jointed knees, and that allows for his leg to get back about that far. And, we all love double jointed knees. That's awesome. Great addition to the figure, so long as the leg doesn't fall off. His ankles, they can rotate 360 degrees, but I thoroughly suggest that you actually hold it in there and push up as you're doing it, or the ankle, much like the aforementioned leg, will fall out. It can go down about that far, and it can tilt up about that far. The pant leg tends to stop it, or the armor on his leg, or whatever that is. It tends to stop it before it gets too far. So, but it does have ankle articulation. Really helps to keep the figure standing, which, because the legs are pretty small in these figures, it can be kind of difficult. So I really appreciate that extra articulation in the ankle. But just be careful, like I said, about the hip joints coming out and the ankles. I think Carly said that if you push it in really hard, then it tends to stick and you can get some good articulation out of it. You just got to make sure you do that before you start moving it around. So really good articulation on these figures.
All right, so first off, every figure has this really cool little assault rifle. It's got a nice sculpt, pretty simple paint job. You can see a little bit of silver detailing there, but there's a lot going on. I like it.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty cool. I like the wear and tear.
Definitely. And then they all have this nice little helmet. Nothing too exciting here. It's got a flashlight with a dab of silver paint that makes it look like it's glass, which is a nice touch. We have this handheld scanner that they use throughout the films. Let's see. You can see it here. It's got some cool greenish tint to it, which I really like. On the top we have this silver scanner, and you can see a little wire sticking out, and I think that that's really cool too.
So both Hudson and Hicks have pistols that they come with, which I thought was pretty cool. They're just basic, black paint, nothing too fancy. Although I do like this kind of shiny paint on the hilt, and the rest of it's kind of a matte black. I like that quite a bit. I thought that was a cool touch on the pistol. Hudson alone comes with this shotgun, which has that kind of black and silver wear that you see on all the other guns. And it's all right. It's cool, you know. And one thing that I didn't mention before, each of these guns have these little finger holes by the trigger, and the figures are actually, you can get their fingers into those. No one's gonna ever notice that, but you will, and that's what matters. So it's pretty awesome. I like that quite a bit. I thought that was great. Big plus for the accessories when you can actually like get them in there like a real gun. Now, the only other gun here came with Quinn. I'm going to say I can never pronounce his name right because I'm terrible. And as you can see, it's not really a gun anymore. And that's because it broke. Big Oaf Hands Christopher was trying to put it into his arms to articulate, and the thing just snapped in half. And you guys are going to lose some points for that because I don't think it was just me. This whole figure series has been falling apart on me. And, once, shame on me, twice, shame on you. So it's your fault this time, guys.
Yeah.
Really sensitive. I wish they would have done a soft plastic instead of this, like, hard plastic. But, beggars and choosers. I'm sure everyone else will comment on the video and be like, that's super lame, dude. You're just an idiot and you broke the gun. And I'll be like, nah. But, yeah. that's how, I feel about it. And I'm sticking to it.
Unfortunately, that means that we're both idiots because they do come with this cool knife accessory that you can remove delicately, but it does not look cool enough in the hand for that to be worth it because when I tried to replace Hudson's, it broke also in half. If you can tell, this is Quintero's. He has this little black handle part. No longer does Hudson have a handle.
Yeah, and we couldn't find it in our gray carpeting.
It's nowhere.
It's invisible. It's
it was
gone.
Eaten by the carpet.
Yeah. So one thing I will say about Hudson's pistol is that you can actually get it into his, soft plastic strappings and get it onto his side, which is kind of cool that you can get his pistol in there despite him not having a holster. It's kind of like a makeshift holster of your own. And one other thing is this is, I guess, an accessory. It's the little radio on his back. I mentioned it in the sculpt. And you can take his shotgun here, and it's got this little wire circle that you can fit the shotgun into. And then you can put his scanner and his gun in his hands, and he's literally got all of his accessories on one person. So that, I feel like, was really cool. I was really happy with it, and that really brought up the accessories for me personally. So this here is the grate that they stand on. It's got great texture, great sculpt. You can see the paint. They actually, I don't know if you can actually in this camera, but you can see they have some rust lines on the inside of the grate. And they have these little holes in the bottom because they have these I's or H's that hook them all together. So you can actually prop these grates together when you put the action figures on them and stick them together, and that's awesome. I'm pretty excited about it, and I'm hoping that the aliens and the loader all have that as well, so you can get them all on one large grate. I think that'd be pretty awesome. So, and you might have noticed these cards that were on the back, and they're pretty awesome. They were inside the package we mentioned before, and we didn't realize this at first, but they come out, and you can actually prop them up behind them. I wish that they would have stuck into the base of the action figure, that grate that they come with right here, but they don't. So if you want to use them, you're going to have to just prop it up behind them. Otherwise, you'll just have to put them aside somewhere or just throw them away.
Alright guys, thanks for staying with us through that whole thing. There are a lot of ups and downs, but on the whole, it's the Alien series, so you can't really, be too upset.
Right.
They did a good job representing the feel of the movie, down to the grading, the packaging, the background thing that comes out. That's like my favorite part. Look how epic that looks.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, and then the accessories, they're super rad, apart from a couple of them breaking, but hopefully that won't happen to you, and it could just be us.
Yeah, it's completely possible, and I loved the articulation of these figures. I loved the sculpt of these figures. The paint, though.
Yeah, paint had some rough spots, literally rough spots. But I think that, the ability to take the legs off by breathing on them, really just outweighs that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they were kind of hot and cold. But overall, very worth it if you're a fan, and even worth it, I'd say, if you're not a huge Aliens fan.
Definitely agree.
So let us know what you guys think in the comments.
Thanks for watching.